So like when I was first like getting into like entrepreneurship and like, wanting to change my life. And obviously it was driven by financials first, being like, okay, I have a daughter on the way. I don't even have a car. Like what, oh shit. Like, what am I going to do? I need to make more money. I have to make more money fast. Like we had to borrow money from Katie's father just to move into our first place. And we moved in 30 days before Emma was born. Right. So I used to like hear all the time, like when I started like, learning about trading and learning about entrepreneurship and all the different things like that are available. Obviously trading is what vibe with me the most, versus a lot of other things that are offered, like, Amazon selling FBA stuff, wholesale real estate, marketing, affiliate stuff. Like, trading is what vibe with me. But like I used to watch like a lot of different YouTube videos, a lot of different documentaries. And like one thing I heard all the time, like, you hear like these millionaire 7-figure success, like routines or habits, right? And you hear like on average, millionaires have 7 sources of income. Millionaires read 10 books a day, right? Millionaires do this, millionaires do that, right? Like, has anybody ever heard that stuff? Like, does anybody relate to that? Because I used to like come across that stuff all the time, like all the time, especially like early on when I was, just starting out. Like millionaires all wake up at 4:30 in the morning, 3 hours before everybody else wakes up, and they read 23 books a month, and they work 30 hours a day, right? Like, and it's crazy because like as I like got to the position where I'm at today, and the mentors that I have been fortunate enough to work with, guys, even like I'm nowhere compared to where these people are. I'm flying to Nashville at the end of the month to meet one of them in person. I've never met him in person. And this guy does 7 figures a month. And there's going to be a lot of big names there too. So I'm looking forward to that. Joe and Bogdan, all 3 of us are going, and we're bringing the girls with us. So like mentors that I worked with, other people who were doing things at like a very high level. Once I got like exposure to these people and close proximity to, people just doing things at a super high level, I quickly realized that was all BS. It was all BS. Just for some perspective, right? I talked about these 3 guys recently in that video vlog I was just referring to. 3 guys I speak with them pretty frequently. One's a big real estate guy. One owns multiple online businesses. And the other is just like a pretty significant investor. Like he buys businesses and he does a lot of these other things, right? So like 2 of them off the top of my head don't even read. I know that for a fact because they told me they don't read. All 3 of these guys do not meditate, right? Like that's one of the other things you hear all the time. Like, you got to meditate, do this and that. Granted, I meditate. I'm a day trader. They're not, right? For me, that's important because it's mental clarity. It helps quiet the noise. It gets my mind primed in a highly stressful, high pressure situation in terms of day trading. So that's obviously like you guys will probably relate more to that than they do, right? Like, so like all of these things, and none of them have, you always hear like the average millionaire has, what is it? What is the number, right? The average millionaire has what, 7 sources of income? Is that like I'm sure you can Google it and there'll be a bunch of memes saying something along those lines. But, I know for a fact that none of them have half of that, right? They have like their main thing usually started off by an active income source that they built, that they then delegated, or brought other people in to manage things, right? And then from there, they use that to like fuel like passive sources, primarily like real estate, right? Like they're not like, that would just spread you too thin. So like I came to quickly realize that a lot of these things that I was hearing were just absolute BS, a bunch of fluff, and weren't going to help me really get to where I wanted to go. So like what I did learn though is from like just close proximity with some of these people. Like I'm talking guys like Sam Ovens, Cole Gordon, Alex Hormozy, like people who are, Alex Hormozy, for example, like at the age of like 24, he was making more money than the CEO of like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and a few other major CEOs combined. Like dudes that are no joke. And some of the biggest takeaways that I got, and it's even like my personal primary investor, his family's 8-figure investors. Like they have almost 8 figures just in the Forex market. What I did quickly realize is, besides like some of the obvious stuff, like long-term gratification, realizing the vision, what that is, how it's going to feel, all of those things, how they're going to get there in stepping blocks. And then once they have that, they can reverse engineer it, right? Like, and not like consumed by, short-term, results, right? There's some obvious things like that. But the biggest things that I took away from all these people, because there were commonalities between these people. Once I like realized that most of this stuff I was hearing, these people, like most of these people who were writing those things probably weren't in close proximity to the, millionaires, people doing 7 figures, 8 figures monthly. What I realized is that preparation, scheduling, routines, habits, structure, organization, and environment were hands down the biggest thing, the absolute biggest thing, right? Because when you have those things in place, right, the organization and preparation, that's kind of like two of the same thing, I guess you could say, and like the self-development, right? Because rarely will the external, the bank account, the physical, the material, right? Rarely will those things exceed your self-development. So, if you are on a certain level externally, right, whatever your house looks like or your bank account or whatever it is, it's usually, in most cases, a reflection of where you're at, the level of play you're at internal. That's one of the big things I realized. So if you want to get up here with your results and your bank account or whatever that looks like for your goals and your vision and your external, you have to come up here with so it's a lagging indicator, right? The external is the lagging indicator to your internal. So if you want to be up here, you got to be up there internally first, and then it goes like this, right? Then it catches up, right? Only will the external be a reflection of the internal. And that was eye-opening for me. So then like I would start asking these guys like certain questions, like, okay, so how do you do that? Right? What does that look like, right? Paint a picture for me on a day-to-day, like what that looks like, so that you're doing things to bring your growth, your level of play up here for then the external to match. Like paint the picture for me. What does that look like? And that's when this is clear across the board, what all of them have in place, and it's structure, it's routines, it's scheduling, organization, preparation, and environment, right? These things that are set up to promote success. So when I think about that stuff, and I used to talk to them about that stuff, and just really being like, okay, like what does this really look like? Paint a very clear picture for me of what this looks like, right? Because I want what you have, right? Let me in, let me know what you're doing, because I'm trying to get like you, right? I'm trying to get on your level or halfway, right? Because these guys are doing things at a much higher level. And I briefly talked about like what I do in terms of like my structuring and all that stuff. So like the biggest thing that they told me, and the biggest thing that I would recommend for you, anybody watching this, right? My biggest takeaway from them is, and this is literally what one of them told me, take a good chunk of time, right? Sit down and whatever you have going on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, write it out. Write it out and write what time certain things happen at, right? If you bring your kids to school Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you get back at 8:15, write that down. If you wake up every day at 6 a.m., write that down. And then what do you do after, right? Like really get detailed with it and write down the times that you're doing all these things, and then like how long it takes. So like if you wake up at 6 a.m. and you're kind of screwing around and you're brushing your teeth, maybe you flick on the news and make a coffee and this and that and get dressed, showered, whatever, and then you finally get ready to go and you're doing stuff, how long is that taking, right? Is that taking like 45 minutes? So you wake up at 6, and then 6 to 6:45, it's that, right? And then at 8 or 5 of 8, you have to bring the kids to school, whatever it looks like. And then you have to go to work and be at work at 9, and then, you're working 9 to 4, whatever it is. Like write it all down, Monday through Sunday for the whole month, like really dissect everything. And then what they said is you need to start tracking everything, right? It's all about this feedback loop, and, it's all about organizing your day-to-day, right? So like, here's the biggest thing where most people get lost. So like, let's say you join a program, or you get a mentor, or let's say like, we for whatever reason, you come into EFX, right? You come into EFX and you start banging out a lot of the trainings, and, you're getting all motivated, and you're like, oh, this is powerful stuff. And he's talking about doing this, and that you need to meditate, and that, you have to be doing, this, and this, and the other thing, right? And it's going through your brain, and you're all like, you're feeling on cloud 9, and you feel like you just got, tossed the keys to the Lamborghini, right? And then you're literally just thinking about these things, and you're like, okay, I got to do this, and he's talking about that, so I got to do that too, and then I got to mark up charts, and then I got to find time for these trainings, and I got to find time to do all this stuff. And you think about it, right? But you never put the pen to the paper and figure out when you're doing what and how long you're doing it, and getting detailed with it, right? And then the day goes by. Then you wake up the next day and you're going through that same thing. You maybe realize that all the things that you talked about or thought about yesterday, things that you need to do, things that will drive results and bring you closer to what you want to accomplish, none of it got done, right? So now you think, okay, you get back into this cycle, and you're like, okay, well, I didn't do this yesterday, I'm going to do it today, right? Maybe I'll start with a training. I got an hour on lunch, and I'll do it then. And then you watch that training, and it talks about setting this up, and how to back test, and certain ways to work on self-development, and whatever it is, right? And you get back into like, oh wow, like this is super valuable, I need to start inputting this, inserting it into my day, right? But you don't do it, right? It's just like these thoughts in your head, and that's like where they stay. And then it's just like, this repeats over and over and over again. Every day it's like thinking about these things that you have to do. Does anybody relate to that? Like you're in this constant loop of thinking about all the things that you want, all the things that you need to do to make that happen, but you don't do anything. And ultimately that leads you to not getting to where you want to go. Does anybody relate to that? And it's very simple. You never took the time to plan out what your days look like. You've never taken the time to plan out every second of every day. And when you do this, right, that's when you can start getting expected results, like organization, preparation, structure, scheduling, right? That is how you create routines, and that's how you create consistency. And, you know, there's a lot of different things, and I can talk on that in a minute, but how many people have actually done that? Like, you know, you're going through trainings and you think about all these things that you're learning that you have to do and the things that you want and how these things are going to get you there, but you never like really factor them into your day-to-day based on your everyday life and your schedule and your family and your work, right? So, like I said, circling back, this one gentleman in particular who I'm thinking about, who I had this conversation with, this was a while ago. And he said, and this was when I was painting. This is when I was painting, and just to show you how powerful it is, I still do it to this day. All of us do it. Joe Biden, we all do it. And he basically said, like, okay, like, write down every second of your day. Literally map it all out. And even if you're going throughout the day, like, and you realize, okay, I didn't realize that, write it down, the time that you do it and how long it takes. So like, you know, after a couple of days, I had like a couple pages of just like my normal day to day. And what I realized was these are all my habits, right? These are all, this is my current schedule, right? And this is my available time, right? Like, there were some non-negotiables, right? I had certain things that, you know, I had to be up at a certain time because I had to be on the train at a certain time, to be at work at a certain time. And then I'm at work from, you know, this time to this time. And then, you know, I have to take the train back home. You know, that was like an hour plus, you know, and then I get home and I shower and I do this right when I get home. And then that takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then we usually have dinner at this time, and, you know, all of these different things. Move to the next lesson, call everything, and you get overwhelmed. Yeah, that's exactly spot on too, right? Like, because you think about these things that you have to do, and then you jump, and the only constant, the only sure thing, right? And the easiest thing is going to the next training. Right? Because that's the easiest thing. You know where it is, and you know where you left off, right? If you are on week 3, module 2, you know you're on week 3, module, you know, the next one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So it's easy to realize where you are and what to do next. And that's where people resort to. And that's a really good point, because then that next module, you're learning a bunch of stuff that you need to apply, but you're not properly applying it or inserting it into your day. And then that just adds to the other stuff that you learned that you needed to do and needed to add to your everyday life, right? And you know, it just turns into a big, noisy mess, really. And then you just get super overwhelmed and super confused. So what we do is, when I had everything written down, I first went through the list, and he said, what can you cut out? What is distracting you from doing the things that you need to do, right? Cut those out. Eliminate it completely if you can. Then where can you shave time? And then where can you utilize time? So for example, if you're taking like 15-minute showers, make it a 10-minute shower. If you're doing, you know, if you're making whatever it is, like there's so many ways that, like, I go deep into this in EFXU, and it's called systemizing life. And it's just a way that you can just use your time the most effectively and most efficiently, right? So that's kind of like summarizing a whole other topic is, you know, where can you shave time, and then where can you spare time, right? So like, when I did this and I realized these little gaps, right, I realized, okay, I have, you know, roughly 30 minutes in the morning free if I really wanted to, and, you know, before I have to actually leave to get on the train. But if I wake up an hour or half hour earlier, that would give me a full hour, right? So that's some, you know, kind of way that you can, you know, add more time. So like, I did that. And then I realized, okay, when I actually walk to the train, that's 15 minutes. That's 15 minutes that I can be doing something audio or listening. Then when I get to the train, I'm sitting on that train from Quincy Center all the way to Cambridge. That's an hour plus train ride there and back. So roughly 2 hours. Longer on the way back because there's usually more people getting home from work. So that was an hour that I could do things. So I brought my little iPad, my little computer, and I would do things, whatever I could. And I'll talk about that in a second. Right? I had an hour there and then an hour back. Because when I was at work, I really couldn't do much. Maybe I could, look at a couple things or listen to something or, check out charts or watch a training during lunch. But, it wasn't really the best time. And sometimes lunch was just very limited. So what I ultimately ended up doing was eliminating my lunch so that I could leave work a half hour early. And then I had, an extra half hour when I got home, and then I had that hour ride home. So like even in that hour ride there, hour back, the 15-minute walk to and from, that's 2.5 hours, right? That I wasn't utilizing. Then I take that 2.5 hours and I chop it up. Okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing this and, 20 minutes doing this, whatever it might be. So like what my days look like right now, right? And I recommend you do this for every little detail. And you guys are going to be blown away when you see the EFXU, the day in the life. How do I find balance? And how do I do all of these things every single day and make these habits, right? And stay consistent with them every single day. Things that are actually going to move the needle and get me to point A to point B. So like I utilize Asana. You can go to asana.com. And then we also utilize Google Calendar. And literally every aspect of my day, like I can pull it up. I have two. Just so it stays organized. Right, so for example, let's go to March 1st. Okay, March 1st. So it initially will tell me any reminders or past due tasks right at the top. And then I have 3 pending tasks and 2 reminders that were carried over. So the first thing is wake up at 4:30 in the morning, right? And at this point where I'm at now, and I've been doing this since Emma was a baby and since I had to get up super early for work, that's almost routine for me, but it's in there. And then I have when I'm meditating, when I need to get in the office. So at 5:30 to 5:45, I meditate. At 6 a.m., it says time to trade. And that means go to my office and then I come in here and the first thing that I see is my calendar. And then this calendar is linked to the Google Nest Hub, to Alexa, and then my watch. And I have alerts. And this is so, because even myself, like I can get so caught up in doing something that I'll lose track of time, right? I might, like it happened to me the other day. I was busy doing a bunch of stuff and then I had a last minute meeting that I got dragged into. And then I got an alert saying, okay, in 30 minutes, you have this coming up. And then at 15 minutes or closer to when it starts, another alert saying, okay, this is what you're doing now. So it can kind of pull me out of the everyday hustle and bustle and draw my attention to the next thing. And then when I get that alert for that next thing, I stop this and do this, right? So time to trade, 10 a.m. Then I have time that I trade. And then depending on when that session ends, I'm done. I go on to the next thing. If I get done earlier, I have a little bit of a bigger gap until 10 a.m. 10 a.m. every single morning at 10 a.m. we have a morning huddle, right? This is myself, Joe, and Bogdan. We talk about, what we have to do today, each of us, what we have to do for the week, what we have to do for the month. We also meet quarterly in person. This is an accountability. You can do this with anybody, right? You can do this with, get a trading partner, get an accountability partner. Meet every day at a time that works for you. Say, did you do this? Did you do that? What do you have going on? What are you working on? Do you have everything scheduled? Do you have everything structured, organized? Do you have an environment that is not cluttered? It's nice. Everything's clean. You know where everything is. It promotes success, right? All of these different things, right? So we do that at 10, right? At 10 to 10:15, that's what we do if the meeting. So I have a whole block, 10 to 11. Depending when that morning huddle gets over, if it's 10:15 or 10:20 or 10:30, that's when I then go right out and work out. And the gym is on the other side of this office. Now, granted, I could go to the gym. I looked for gyms locally when I first moved to North Carolina, but the one that I was kind of liking, the other one was kind of like a CrossFit place and didn't really have the weights and the cycling. So the other one was a 20-minute ride. That's a 20-minute ride there, 20-minute ride back, add a 10-minute shower, get dressed, right? That turns into a whole hour. I don't have a full hour, so I brought the gym to my house. That keeps me on track. I have my clothes for my gym right outside on the ledge outside this door. So when I leave the office after the morning huddle, it's the first thing I see. And then the next thing is my gym right there. So if I get done at 10:30 off the meeting, right, I'll probably do something like the other day it was a meeting that ran long. Keep in mind, I have a whole hour blocked off here. So I get into that gym area on the other side of this office at 10:30. So I jumped on the cycling bike and did 15 minutes of cardio. I stopped because then I'm getting showered and getting dressed and I'm going downstairs. Then that block right there from 11 to 1, that's family time. I usually take Emma for a walk, and then we have lunch at 12, and then she goes down for a nap at 1. These times and these schedule has been the same since she's been born, just about right before she was born. After she goes down for a nap at 1, I have 1 to 3, sometimes 1 to 3:30 where, if I have errands I got to do. Most times I'm back in the office because this is another time where the house is quiet. I have these times chopped up. So if I have 2 hours, let's say I got a meeting for 15 minutes here, I'll have 45 minutes here. Before that, I'll chop that up. And this is what I'm doing. Alert set for the next thing that tells me stop doing that. Now do this. Right? Leaving myself no chance to get off schedule because it's all structured. We have alerts. My calendars are connected to theirs. I can see theirs. Katie can see my calendar. Everybody knows what I'm doing, when everything is, when I have meetings, when I'm trading, when I'm meditating, when I'm eating, when I'm sleeping, everything. I don't leave anything for chance. Everything is there. Boom, 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 every single day. And this is something that I've measured. I watch the inputs, the outputs, the things that I'm doing. I do more of what works, less of what doesn't, right? I look for places where I can optimize my time. I look for areas that I can delegate to save time, to free time, to use my time more efficiently, okay? So then at 3:30, when Emma wakes up, that's family time. And then we hang out at 4:30, we're making dinner. 4:30 on the dot, every single day, I get an alarm for it. Literally says on my calendar, time to make dinner. 4:30 to 5, we're prepping dinner, getting ready, and everything's already there. Our menu for the entire week, the foods for everything, already planned out on Sunday. We know what we're having every single night ahead of time. There's no, what are we having tonight? We don't leave any chance to, let's just go order pizza. Let's go to Dunkin' Donuts, right? Because what does that do? That it has a negative effect on my system, my machine that I need at top capacity, right? Optimal capacity. So I can perform and I can have energy and I can have the focus and everything, right? I do this with my coffee. I do this with everything, right? I use 4 Sigmatic coffee, right? The mushroom coffee. Right? Because it has lion mane, it has chaga, it has reishi, it's good for focus, right? All things going into my body and surrounding myself that promote success, that will help me do what I need to do at a higher level, right? So we have dinner at 5 o'clock every single night. It's been like that for months, or excuse me, for years, right? Emma, she at certain times obviously can't even read a clock, but like, for example, we'll be sitting on the couch. We bring her upstairs to wind down at 7 every single night. That's when I come back into the office to mark up charts before I get my alert saying 8 p.m. Now it's time to unplug. I charge my phone in my room. I never go into my bedroom and sleep with my phone because I don't want to touch it for at least an hour after waking up, right? And then I leave the office and whatever. But when it's nearing 7 o'clock, Emma, she takes her blanket off. She goes, Daddy, it's time to go upstairs. like clockwork. She doesn't even know how to read the time. She just knows because it's been ingrained in us. We've been so consistent with it, right? And it creates these habits, this routine, right? So, you know, I'm looking at the calendar. You know, I'll show you one of my calendars just really quickly, just so you know I'm not like blowing smoke up your ass. Like, and it shows most of the stuff. Let me see. Right? So you can see like literally everything. Here's my reminders, right? 3 pending tasks, when I'm meditating, time to trade, leadership huddle, workout exercise at 10:15, FTME live today at 12. I get my alert 30 minutes prior to that. Lunch 12, 4:30 make dinner, right? And I have 2 of these, right? So this, and then you can just set these things for, you know, for repeat daily, repeat weekly, repeat monthly, whatever it is. And all I've done is work on optimizing and using the best use of my time that's actually going to drive results and creating this structure and these routines that will yield results, right? And I've been doing this since before I was doing this full time, like when I was a painter. And it just made it so I was actually getting things done. And then when I actually had everything scheduled and planned, and I was getting alerts for all these things, I realized I was actually doing them. And then I would have accountability, people I was doing this with, right? And, you know, we would meet up, right? Initially, we were doing it weekly. We'd meet up on the weekends because we were just all so busy. And then we would just say, okay, did everybody do this? Everybody do that, right? Did everybody have a productive week? Did anybody slack off here? Did anybody not get anything done? Was anybody tempted to do this or whatever it is? Just check-ins, and then get to the root of those and why those things might have, you know, played a role, right? Just holding each other accountable. And then I realized, like, when I have all these things planned out and I'm not leaving anything up for chance, right? Because it's all scheduled. I know when I'm doing everything every single day. And the more you do it and you get these alerts, and then when you don't do it, you get reminders. And then I'll show you like Asana too. Right, so Asana, like I checked in with this earlier, you can connect these to Google Calendars, right? So it has like priorities. It has upcoming things that I'm doing. It says overdue. So I have like one thing overdue right now. And when it's overdue, everybody gets a notification. Like Mirko can see it, Joe can see it, Bogdan can see it. And then I get a message like I did today. Hey, Mirko sent me a message that, hey, did you get this done? And I said, no. And then I did it. Right. So like it's just so extremely effective when you have everything planned out, you leave nothing for chance. And that's like one of the biggest takeaways that I got from these guys who are doing things at a high level, because every single one of them did this. And if you look at anybody who's had high level success, they will say it all came from planning and preparation. 100%. 100%. And then what you're doing is you're just tracking different things. Like, you know, you're testing different things, right? So for example, like coffee, right? So like I'm from Boston. I'm a big Dunkin' Donuts coffee guy, right? I've been drinking Dunkin' Donuts my entire life, right? So I was introduced to a certain coffee from Sean Stevenson, who's like a big entrepreneur, health guy, whatever. And he talks about Four Sigmatic. And it's this mushroom coffee. It doesn't taste like mushrooms, but it's just this coffee that is just super, super good for you. Has tons of minerals and vitamins, has chaga and reishi and lion's mane and all this stuff in it that really promotes good energy, no crashing, no jitters, extreme focus, like crazy productivity. Like, you know, so I tried it and I saw like an instant change, and it's all natural, it's all organic, you know, no pesticides, no chemicals, right? Like even my sugar, right? I've eliminated sugar, right? I've seen a huge impact. I use monk fruit, my creamer, plant-based, you know, everything, right? Because I've tested different things that can, because I understand that I'm the machine. If I'm going to be consistent and I have, most days are demanding for me, and I like it like that. But if I'm going to be able to do this and sustain this system without burning it out, right, I have to be able to perform day in, day out at a high level. So what does that look like? What good night's sleep? So I'm in bed every day winding down at 8 p.m. I'm usually out before then, max bedtime at 9. I have alerts for that stuff, right? And then I have the Google Nest Hub next to my bed that measures my sleep, and certain things that affect my sleep. So then I can make changes. I measure every little detail of my life so that I notice a huge impact with no sugar. I notice a huge impact with, going organic and eliminating processed foods, no fast foods, no soda, right? I changed the coffee. So like I would change these things. I might try sea moss. I might try, this thing or whatever it might be. And then I would just measure the output. And if it was favorable, I would do it and I'd keep it. And if not, I would eliminate it just so I was completely operating at a high level, right? Like if you get a Lamborghini or a Range Rover, right, you're not going to throw in the bottom dollar gas. You're going to throw in that high octane fuel, right? And that's how you have to treat your body. What's the coffee name? It's Four Sigmatic. foursigmatic.com. And that's one of the things that I talk about in week 8 in this. I show everything I do, right? To the foods that I eat, the vitamins that I use, the soaps that I use, even my soaps, it's all natural. No aluminums in my deodorant, no chemicals, no dyes, 100% all natural, everything. To the sprays that we use in the house, right? Because I'm thinking about longevity, I'm thinking about disease, I'm thinking about sustainability, I'm thinking about energy, I'm thinking about everything. My entire freaking life is 100% optimized for performance and time efficiency. And that is why I'm so consistent. And then the discipline, right? Like I would say, habits trump discipline. Right? Because I do all these things now every single day with my alerts, with my accountability, and then they just become habits, right? How do you deal with multiple tasks that line up at the same time? For example, lunch and live session. So do you push one or one gets eliminated? So I don't eat until lunchtime. So like I kind of do like an intermittent fasting type of thing. Like I'll drink my coffee and drink water in the morning, but if something like that happens, right? So I'll do a smoothie or I'll have like a salad or I'll just push it back. So like today I wasn't hungry. I'm trying to push myself before I eat my first meal. So like after this, Emma is going to go to take her nap in 10 minutes. So usually on these calls, she'll wait a few extra minutes or come in here and say goodnight. And then after, keep in mind, I have that 2-hour gap, 1 to 3:30 when she's napping. So when I get done with this call, I'm not like insanely off schedule. So obviously like there's some days that vary, right? Like there's a consistent baseline, but there's some days of the week or of the month that are different, right? I might have like because we have monthly meetings, weekly meetings, with other contractors and agencies and mentors and all that stuff. So like some days are slightly different, but what I try to do is fill them into my open slots, right? If I have an open slot here or an open slot there, right? Most of my meetings, besides the morning huddle, I put between 1 and 3. Right? Because I have my non-negotiables, and that's like family time stuff. I don't jeopardize for that. Like dinner times, like if it comes to 4:30 and Joe calls me, I don't even answer because my phone's in the other room, right? We completely unplug. It's family time. It's a non-negotiable, right? I don't make it easy for people to distract my quality time with my family, right? That's like what I hate about notifications on phones. It kind of like invites people in to distract you. So, and like I said, there's so many things. Like what I mainly focus on is shiny objects, things that can distract me, right? Like how many people in here watching this right now, right? Even if let's say EFXU members, because I see a lot of you in here. How many EFXU members in here are in other trading Facebook groups or following other telegrams or maybe taking signals or also working on using a bot, right? All these different things, right? You're all distractions, right? So eliminate distractions. You want to promote an environment create an environment that promotes success, right? Your office where you work, your house where you live and where you eat and where you hang out, right? Like all these different things, right? Like every area is optimized. Every area has, distractions eliminated. And it's just, that's just what I'm talking about here, and it might sound like I'm rambling and it might sound like some like OCD crazy stuff, but like if you want to see results, like all that stuff I used to hear about these millionaires and like, you know, these, yeah, they all have 7 sources of income on average. They all read like 5 books a month and they all wake up at 4:30, right? Like that's all BS, right? You know, somebody might be, you know, they might have, you know, better energy and more focus and might be a night owl, right? And they're not a morning person. So optimize your schedule for that, right? Everybody doesn't have to have like a one size fits all, but the important thing is that you have everything scheduled out. You have everything planned out, distractions eliminated, you have structure to it, everything's systemized, right? Like even the communication, for example, right? There's certain times where I don't have my phone, and there's certain times when, you know, the auto, the whatever it is, the focus mode, that's on. You know, and when I have that, like I don't have certain apps on my phone, right? I don't have Slack on my phone. Slack is on my computer, and that's how everybody on our team communicates, right? I use Facebook Messenger app on my computer. I answer messages at a certain time. I do emails at a certain time. I don't wake up and I go through and I read all my notifications and I respond to the comments and all these different things. Everything is structured. Everything has a time. Everything has a place. I do not allow myself to go down these rabbit holes. All right. I do not allow myself to get distracted. And the way I do that is by following a schedule that is already created that produces expected results, right? And all I have to do, it's like the same thing with like a trading plan. Like your job is to create a trading plan that's, you know, that can produce a positive trade expectancy, right? And then it becomes about your ability to implement that plan. What I just showed you with my schedule there, that's like my off charts trade plan. And then it just becomes my ability to implement that plan, follow those things, and not just fill it up with a bunch of stuff that looks good to make it look like I'm busy, right? And then have that accountability factor where you have other people there that, you know, you're checking in with. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? If not, why? Right? Like all these different things, right? I'm only in this group a long time, but I'm distracted by following a few Telegrams. Delete them. What are they doing? Like everything that you do, right? Like, you know, if you're in Telegram groups, so like what is that doing to get you ahead? Right? And that's like the moral of the story. Like if you ever like, you know, if you ever taken like anything from me, right? And I mentioned this in the beginning, if you want to go a certain level, like where I'm at now, everything I have in my life, like the car, the house, the computer, whatever it might be, what's in my bank account, that's a reflection of my internal. Where I was, you know, when I started this journey in a shitty apartment in the inner city, right inside Boston, working at a painting job, right? All of these different things, where my mindset was and just what my bank account looked like, maybe $2,000 if I'm lucky after getting paid before dishing it all to bills. That was a reflection of me and my internal, in my mindset, and the decisions that brought me to that place. And then I had to level up internally before the external could match, right? So right now, I'm working on internally growing and working on my mindset, optimizing all these different things, and then watch what the external looks like in 2 months or 2 years or 4 years, whatever it is, right? The bank account, whatever it might be, it will always be a reflection. So your external results, the physical, the bank account, rarely will ever exceed self-development. And the way that you get these things in place, right, is systemizing your life, scheduling every single bit of your day, every single day, leaving nothing up for chance. Right? Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about like what I'm talking about? And like this has been like the biggest cheat code to my life. Does anybody do anything like this, or are you leaving everything up for chance right now? Do you ever have everything structured, or are you just like approaching every day with no plan. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to hop on the charts. I'm going to mark up some stuff. I'm going to throw some trades on NT4. I'm probably going to see if I can fill in some self-development sometime throughout the day. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I'm going to try to eat healthy, but I got no plan for it. I don't know what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat it, how I'm going to eat it. And I'm also going to try to go to the gym. Not sure where, what I'm going to work on, or what part of my body, but I'm going to try to go to the gym today because I got to start doing that because I look like shit and I'm unhealthy and I feel unhealthy, right? Like that's like what most people go through on the day to day, just like winging it, completely freestyling it, leaving everything up for chance. And that's why you don't get results, right? Like that's like what my life, I just described my life to you if you didn't pick it up, right? And it's just like you leave all these things up for chance, and then like you're left there wondering like, why aren't I like doing these things? Why aren't I seeing results? And then if you really dig into it, it's because you're not preparing anything. You're not planning anything. There's no organization. Like what if you treat your life and these routines and these things that you have to do like a hobby? Well, guess what? You're going to get a hobby result. I get high level results because I have it structured high level. I have accountability on a high level, right? I try to do things on a high level. And that's the biggest cheat code I can tell you, hands down, without a single doubt in my mind. Like when people ask me like, you know, how were you able to get to the level you're at as a trader in a short period of time, a relatively short period of time? I've been trading for, you know, years now, but I still think it's like a relatively short period of time. Right? How were you able to also build, you know, multi-seven-figure businesses? How were you also able to work on your health? How were you also able to do all these things, but still have good relationships with your family and your daughter and your significant other, right? Like everything's planned, right? Katie knows when we go on vacation. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to ask. We go every single time, every single quarter, right? Like when I tell you my life is systemized, like Katie knows when we hang out every single day. She knows when it's just me and her time. She knows when it's family time with the three of us, right? Like there's no question. There's no question. Like today, I got a text from her, see you after your call. I didn't have to tell her I had a call today. She just knows it's Tuesday. It's 12 o'clock. She knows I got a call. You know what I mean? Like everything is there. We're leaving nothing up for chance, right? And when you do that, that's when you see results. It's simple as that. So if you're serious about really wanting to change your life and really see results, right? Don't focus on what you're doing on the charts. That's not going to do it. If you don't have your life together, if you don't have organization in your life, it's the same as you treat a car. How you treat your car tells a lot about you as a person, right? And I'm sorry if that offends you, but it's true. If you don't, you know, if you have a car and you just beat the shit out of it, you don't make sure the tires got pressure, you don't rotate the tires, make sure they got good tread. If you don't take the car and get tune-ups, right? If you don't get oil changes, you know, regularly when you're supposed to, every, you know, X amount of miles, right? You don't detail it periodically. You don't clean the outside. You don't clean the inside, right? If you don't do these things, that's a reflection of how you do probably every damn thing in your life, right? I mean, it's a direct reflection. Right? How your system, your own vehicle, like we're a system. That's why I talk about in week 8, like, or the whole program. It's the self-sufficient machine. We're the machine. We're the system. We're the processes. You have to be filling yourself up and keeping a full tank of clean gas, the high octane gas, filling your body with organic, healthy, natural, clean food, drinking lots of water, staying hydrated, staying well rested, right? Getting good, like all my water naturally sourced, right? Locally from a spring, right? Everything that we do is I'm focusing on the machine because I know the machine and the system, that's what's going to drive me to get results. This is the car. Like if you don't take good care of your car, how are you expecting to drive long distances, right? The car is going to break down, or it's going to, if you don't keep a full tank, it's going to run out of gas, right? It's no different, people. It's no different. And once you realize that, it's a game changer for you. It's an absolute game changer, right? And then the same thing, like my process before I get on the charts in the morning, right? Like take another airplane. You guys know I love my analogies, right? Like airplanes, they have to keep those things maintained, right? Because lives literally depend on it. And that plane is a vehicle to take you from point A to point B. They keep that fueled up. When it lands, it's getting fueled. They do, diagnostic checks. They make sure everything is good. They run a whole checklist, right? They have this whole system that they do to make sure everything's good, because that is something that can literally, if you don't, it's going to turn into a disaster, right? And lives literally depend on it. And you have to treat yourself the same way as if lives depend on it, right? If I don't do these things, or if I do these things, my family, my daughter, lives literally depend on it. And even pilots, how well they, not the pilots, but how they maintain those planes, right? They're doing that very well. They have a checklist and a process. But even still, right, what does a pilot do every time before it takes off and hits the runway? They go through a checklist. They check this. They make sure that you see the flaps going like this, right? They're even as well maintained those flights are, or those planes, those pilots, before they blast off, they're still doing a checklist. So guess what I do every single day before I get on the computer? When it says time to trade, right after I meditate, I come here and I go through a checklist, because even though I'm keeping my system well maintained and I'm following a very structured routine and schedule, right? That doesn't mean there's days that I won't feel like shit. That doesn't mean that there's days that my mental game is just not there. So I run through a couple questions, right? Depending on those questions, I see if I have a certain threshold. If I fall in that threshold, I'm good to trade. If I fall out of that threshold, it's a no trade day, right? And then if I'm out of that threshold, I see if there's anything that I can do to push me into that threshold. And if not, then I completely just call it. I'll see you in the morning. I know the charts aren't going anywhere, right? That's just how you have to have a system. You just have to have a system. If you don't have a system, if your whole life isn't systemized and set up to promote success and consistency, right? You're just leaving it all up to chance. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Hard for me with young kids working nights. You can still do it. You can literally still do it. I mean, okay, Joe's got 3 kids, right? And he works crazy. He was just working his full-time job up till recently, right? Crazy hours doing real estate, right? He does the same thing, right? I know people that are extremely busy with kids and, all these different things going on. You want to see a hectic day to day? Come sit with me for a day or a week, right? It's just, you have to find the time. You have to optimize and you have to use the best use of your time, right? Even if you have 2 hours and it's spread out, when are those 2 hours? What are you doing for those 2 hours? How, and it's not just the work related stuff. Every single thing in your life needs to be just boom, boom, boom. This is when I'm doing it. This is how I'm doing it. Yeah, people are structured from 9 to 5 because they're the business owner's plans how everything is to be done. Just needs to expand that to private time. Yeah, it's everything. Good stuff. Some of this I've heard, but needs to complete. I have a plan for most hours of the day and for food and trading, but the discipline to stick to it is what I'm finding hard. Any tips for discipline? So, I mean, the same thing. I wouldn't rely on discipline, right? I would rely on habits, right? And I talk about that deep in week 8, right? Habits, if you haven't read Atomic Habits, it's extremely powerful. I would really recommend reading that book. It's just so, so good. There's a lot of factors that come into being disciplined, right? Maybe you've gone to, you're in the FXU, so maybe you haven't got to it, but there's a whole thing on monk-like discipline. There's a lot of aspects to discipline. It's not just a simple thing. The biggest thing for me, right? The most cutthroat way to be disciplined is do what I just talked about and have accountability, right? Get a group of people and you guys all meet up daily, right? Even our other team, besides Joe, Bogg, and myself, right? We have probably 8 or so people working for us. Guess what we do every single morning? All of us meet. I should show you guys this. We have. I'm gonna give you guys a glimpse into behind the scenes of EFXU really quickly, and I'm gonna show you what we do and what we have everybody that works for us, what we have them do, right? We have everything structured. So every single person that is part of our team, we meetups in the morning. Like you have to meet with us. We have multiple huddles. You'll either meet with Joe, Bogdan, or myself. And then at the end of the day, we have a section in Slack. It's end of day reports, right? So I don't know if I guess I can, right? So I'll give you guys a quick glimpse, right? So I got it slid over a little bit so nobody can see everything here, but right, you can see end of day report, right? You got everybody doing end of day reports, how much they're doing, what their psychology was, right? All these different things, inspiration, like they're going over every little aspect of the day, right? Filling out what they did, how they did it, right? And then we check this, right? Have this with an accountability partner, have an end of day report and have it structured. How many, what did you do? How did you do it? Were you consistent? Did you lack certain areas? Like whatever it might be, right? Have a little meetup in the morning, talk about what you're doing for the day, for the week, what your plans are, what your short-term goals are, right? And then have end of day reports. I mean, it can be that simple. And then you do that with structuring everything that I talked about today. I mean, sheesh, that's the cheat code right there. That's the cheat code. Let me try to get up with this chat. But I mean, like all that stuff, I mean, that's the real skill that you need to acquire. It's not marking up charts or taking some trades on MT4. Like that's not going to make you successful. And then, like I said, like it's not really discipline. Like probably what we're really talking about here is like willpower, right? Like, so for example, like I don't ever rely on motivation, right? I don't rely every day to, I'm rarely, and this is just being honest with you, I rarely am driven to do things by motivation. Like I don't get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning because I'm motivated to do so, right? Like who wants to get up at 4:30 in the morning, right? But the fear of the opposite gets my ass out of bed before my alarm, right? So I don't ever rely on motivation because one, motivation is temporary. Two, it runs out. And if you wait around for motivation to do what's required of you, you're never going to get a single thing accomplished. Motivation might get you started. Habits and discipline and routine and accountability and all the other things that we talked about today, that's what's going to keep you going. And in discipline, basically, to your question, discipline is basically like doing what needs to be done, even when you don't want to do it, right? So like, think of like why you're doing it, like the why and the purpose and all that stuff. It's a big factor, but like, the reason why I'm not a very lavish person, like it's always been fascinating to me when people come into some money and they get a little success and they like completely like, you see them all tatted up and you got some designer and they're buying like exotic cars. And that's just always been fascinating to me. Like people like, change up, like almost like who they are and the way that they dress and all these different things because they come into a little bit of money. The reason why like I have never been like that, right? I still wear the same clothes I did when I had no money. I still wear Nike Air Maxes to this day. You can go back on my pictures from 10 years ago on Facebook. I'm still wearing the same shit. Not the same exact stuff, but the same brands, right? Same stuff. And the reason for that, and the reason for me getting out of bed, and the reason for me doing all of these things is like the fear of the opposite, right? Remembering what it was like when Katie and I both were on EBT, food stamps, and we used hers for food because she got 500. And I gave mine to my friend in Revere because he would give me 200 cash for the 300 that I got, so I could use that to pay for our cell phone bill. And it was a 45-minute train there to the downtown Orange line to the Green line to go to Wonderland. Right? I mean, 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back for $200 cash selling my EBT food stamps, right? Coming back home to sleep on an air mattress in a shitty apartment in a shitty neighborhood. Like the fear of ever going back to that, that's why I'm so good with managing money. That's why I don't go spend my money on stupid shit. That's why you don't see me wear Gucci or, you know, drive exotic cars, right, to impress people I don't know, right? I'm more secure. I'm more concerned about the security and doing what I need to do so my family doesn't have to worry, that our bills can just stay on autopilot, and we don't have to, you know, we can do what we want, right? Like, it's the fear of the other thing, right? And that's a big thing that drives motivation, which can lead into, you know, you being disciplined more so. You know, like I said, the real power of discipline is the ability to, you know, control your feelings and overcome your weaknesses. You know, it's long-term thinking, right? Thinking long-term gratification. You know, and there's just so many different ingredients to what you're talking about when we talk about discipline. Wow, that's next level. Super organized. We'll have to take some tips, and once it has to be, you know, when everything's organized, you leave nothing up for chance. Like, you should see, I mean, that's just how we run the business. That's how we run our lives. That's how we run our health and trading. Like, that's why we get results. Simple. Like, you know, you talk to anybody, right? Like, you know, for example, like when I see people, right, go through EFXU, let's say somebody joins and, you know, week 1 done in day, 2 days, week 2 done in, like, you know, they're like a week into the program and they're on like week 3. And it's just like, how could you possibly plan even if you don't know how to do everything, right? Like, when I was starting my first business that turned into a 7-figure business, meaning like we put up 7 figures, millions a year. We didn't know how to do 90% of just about everything. We didn't know how to do most of the things, but we knew that why we wanted to do it, and we had a good idea of how to do, you know, a decent amount of stuff. But most importantly, like, do you think it took us, we planned all of that in a couple of days or a week, right? Do you think you can plan a 7-figure business in a couple of days or a week? Do you think you can plan, you know, a 7-figure trading business, right? Do you think I planned my trading business and what I wanted to do and my vision, and get everything organized and planned, and my routines and all that stuff that I need to do, that everything builds on? Do you think that's planned out in a couple of days or a week, right? It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible, right? And I see people just breeze through that stuff, and then they circle back and they're like, why aren't I getting results? And it's like, all right, let me see what your day-to-day looks like. What do you do? And there's like nothing there. Like, most people don't even have calendars, right? It's like, you know, you're leaving things up for chance. And I can go on and on this topic, but, you know, the most important thing is, like, I'll leave on this note. The reason why so many people fail in the discipline area is because of their approach. And that approach is based on, you know, seeing a change or a desired result in a short period of time, versus instead becoming obsessed with the journey, the process, the structuring, the organization, the self-development, the long-term gratification and long-term goals, as well as the person that you have to or are transforming into, right? It's never like, here's point A and here's point B. When I get to point B, it's all like celebration. I made it. Like, I got X amount of money in the bank. Like, I'm a full-time trader. Like, this is the shit. Like, I love it. My life's awesome. Like, it's not that. There's never a point B. It's always a road heading down where you can see the light, but it's always, you're never reaching it, right? Like, my goals years ago were to be where I'm at now. And then my goals now are, you know, who I want to be and where I got to be in, you know, 5 years from now. It's never like I've arrived. It's always the journey, right? And transforming into the person that you have to become in order to be the thing and do the thing that you want to do. You know, and they simply focus on, you know, the complete, the simple focus on the complete wrong things, right? and that's just where most people, like charting or just executing trades and not doing a lot of this stuff because it looks dreadful, right? Versus building habits and routines and organization and scheduling and building an environment that promotes success and eliminating distractions or temptations, right? And when people focus on the end result or instant gratification and they don't see it in a short period of time, discipline out the window, habits out the window, everything out the window, right? And you've heard me say this many times before, and I'll say it again for you, just for good measure. It's not about becoming a successful trader or, millionaire or whatever it is for you, right? So, you don't want to focus on making a ton of money and becoming funded or quitting a job in a short term, right? You want to focus on becoming the person that you need to become in order to be a successful trader, knowing that if you do, right, then the results will surface and then the money will start flowing to you, right? And then you'll be able to quit the job and then you'll be able to have the security and the freedom, right? Remember, motivation is just your desire to accomplish a goal, right? The self-discipline is your ability to follow through on that goal until completion, right? Even when you don't feel like doing it, you wake up and it's the last thing you want to do. So I'm going to leave you guys with that because we can go on this topic forever. I mean, you guys know EFXU, like that's what EFXU is. It's like, it's showing you how to systemize. It's showing you how to organize your life and create a machine. It shows you different pieces to the machine, how to assemble it, how to run it, how to optimize it, how to make it efficient, and transforming yourself into that version of you, that new version of yourself that you always like. There's always these new versions of yourself and you always have to be working. Like right now, right? I'm working on that next version, right? This current version of myself isn't at a place that can manage the amount of money that I want to manage trading, isn't at a level that can be running a certain level of business, right? But I know if I work on the things internally, right, I'll be able to be there. And then the external will match it eventually, right? I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't care how long it's going to take, right? I just know that I'm going to level up. And as soon as I do, and I keep focusing on the vision, why I want to do that, everything else will match it. And I've just constantly done that over and over and over again in every single area of my life. So, but yeah, Atomic Habits, really quickly, I'll just, you really want to read that. Habits are just really powerful. If you have bad habits or if you want to create new habits, it all comes down to cue, craving, response, reward. That's the 4-step pattern. That's the framework of every single habit that your brain runs through in the same order every single time, right? And I don't want to get into that. It's very, very powerful. It's just, those are the things that you can, that's what it really dives into, that book and just understanding those, every goal, everything that you want to do is doomed from the start if it goes against the grain of your human nature, right? So I would recommend reading that book. It's extremely powerful. The book really talks about, like, if you want to change what you do or the results that you want to achieve, you first need to change who you are. And if you change your ability, or if you change your identity rather, then it'll make it much easier to change your behavior, which then makes it much easier to achieve the results that you're going after. So it's a really powerful book. So it's had a huge impact on my life. Everything that I've told you today, that's what's driven my results. Nothing else. Nothing I can show you on the charts. It's what I talked about today. That's the biggest thing that I picked up from all of those big mentors and being in close proximity to people who higher level than I am. And that's what, if I was you and I'm kind of freestyling my day and you don't have any structure, take an hour today and really put the pen to the paper and figure out what your day looks like. Figure out that baseline, what an average day looks like, and just start planning and optimizing and focus on your health, focus on your mindset, focus on mental clarity, things that can help you, right? Like I meditate because that's going to help me trade better. That's going to help relieve stress and quiet the noise before a high stress environment, right? I eat good foods and hydrate and sleep well the night before and drink good coffee. That's going to help me in that trading situation, right? So just optimize these areas. Focus on the best fuel for your body and your mind, right? And then just schedule all these things out based on the time that you have available. And then if you do that, that's how your schedule changes. And that's how you have more free time. Because then eventually you'll have a huge gap when you quit that job and you fire that boss and you're working for yourself. Then you have a huge gap. And then that's the real difficult part of how you have a full 8 hours. Most people can't plan a 2-hour gap, right? So don't go crazy or think that it's extremely difficult. You have 2 hours in a given day, and you do, whether you want to admit it or not, you have 2 hours that you can dedicate to working on yourself and the betterment of yourself and your family's future. You do, and I don't want to hear anything else besides that. You do. Just find it, right? Most people can't do that. It'll be a lot harder when you have a full day, 8 hours, whatever it is, that you have to plan, right? It gets harder the more time you have, not the less time you have. Because you have some structure, you have some things you have to do, and you have accountability. Just like you go to a job. If you don't go to a job, you're going to get fired, and you're not going to be able to pay your bills, right? It's going to be difficult when you have a full day and you're left freestyling it. That's when you really have to plan. That's why my days are planned out the way they are. So I'm going to leave it on that. Let me see these questions. Powerful man, I now know I have a piece missing. Thanks as always. You have about 2 hours? Yeah, I mean, like, you know, most people here probably watch Netflix or Amazon TV or Amazon Prime, or, you know, most people are probably doing things that they could easily cut out, right? So like, you know, if you're watching Amazon for 30 minutes a day or night and you say you don't have at least an hour, well, you know. I recommend reading Getting Things Done by David Allen. He is a time management guru. He treats private and work tasks the same way. He has a model to treat all things that come into your life and to how to structure them. I've been following that model for years. Time logging, like Danny speaks about, is a real eye-opener because you don't have time and you find out you waste. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like when I did that, I realized I was wasting so much time. It was like disgusting. Right. And then that's how you're going to be able to accomplish big goals in a relatively short period of time. And you start optimizing the time you have. Like and this isn't trying to be like a flex, but I probably do more in 3 days than most people do in a month. Like, no exaggeration. My days are jam packed from the time I get up at 8:30 or 4:30 in the morning to the time I go to bed and shut down at 8. I am busy. And you don't have to have it like that. I'm just saying, like, you have to have it structured, like getting routines. You don't have to be as crazy as I have it, because I have a lot of stuff going on that I'm working on. But because my focus is different now that I have, you know, trading as a fuel source, I'm building other things that can really cement my family's future if anything happens to me and I can't trade. So I'm okay being busy and having demanding lifestyle right now, because I know it's I know what's at risk, right? I know what the costs are if I don't. But you don't have to make it as demanding as what I showed. But you need the accountability. You need things structured. You need time logs. You need Google Calendar. You need alerts. You don't need a Apple Watch. You don't need the other things. You have a phone. You have Google Calendar. Make a free Gmail account. Download Google Apps on your phone. Set alerts. Set all that stuff. You got tasks, reminders, all that stuff. And you know, it'll play a huge role. I guarantee it. All right. So anybody else have any other questions about anything I talked about before we hop off? Because we've gone a little bit long today. If you have a plan laid out and you get distracted, which happens, you just have to pull up your plan and start again. Yeah, I mean, it's that too. And like, my big thing is like everything in my immediate environment, like my office, and one thing I really talk about in the FXU is your environment, right? Setting your environment up. I'm not going to get in on this because we've been going for a while, but that's part of setting up your environment that promotes success. And that means eliminating shiny objects, eliminating distractions. And there's like things that you can do, right, to really keep you focused, right down to, you know, I got lights and humidifiers and natural light. There's a reason why my desk is right here. Natural light. I have, you know, certain music that I listen to in the morning while I'm trading, right? Like, there's just so many things that you can do that help you eliminate distraction and follow a plan. So that's just a topic for another time. So, All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. Anybody have anything they want to ask about anything that I talked about? Otherwise, we can just wrap it up there. But I hope you take what I talked about today to heart. It'll make a huge impact on your life. I guarantee it. I can guarantee it. It's the same thing for like, how many times have you like said, you know, I'm going to go to the gym, and maybe you start, but then like after a month, like it's, you know, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to do all these things. And then like you might start it, but like after a month, like you're at McDonald's and you're not going to the gym and all that. It's the same thing, right? Like there was no prep to it. There was no planning to it, right? Like if you were going to do that, what days are you going to go to the gym? When are you going to go to the gym? On what day are you working on your back? What day are you working on your legs? What day is cardio? And then what are you going to do for your fuel, right? What are you going to do for your eating? Plan that out. When are you eating? How are you eating? What diet it is, right? Like it's just, you have to have a plan and a reason to do it in the first place, or it's just that goal is absolutely useless. And that's for everything. So if you have a goal to be a full-time trader and you don't have all these things in place, it's a useless goal and a useless waste of your time, because it's not going to happen. So you got to get this thing, you got to get this stuff structured. You have to. All right, cool. Let's wrap it up. I don't see any other questions coming in, so we'll just call it there. Hope you guys enjoyed this call. Hope you got some value from my ranting. Sorry, 90-minute rant, but hopefully you got some value from it. Next call we have next Tuesday. We'll be back on the charts next Tuesday at 12. EFXU members, I will see you all Friday at 11 a.m. Hope you guys all have a great day. Stay safe. Plan your days, man. I can't say it enough. Take what I talked about today and start doing it immediately. Everybody who's still on this call, figure out the second I hang up this call, an hour or 30 minutes today, right? Look at your schedule. Think about what you got to do today. Find a 30-minute gap where you can just sit down, take a pen, take a piece of paper, or write it on your phone and figure out what your average day looks like. Write it down and then start planning everything that you need to do around that. And then if you have the time, get Google Calendar and start plugging all of this stuff into Google Calendar and set alerts. Like my Google Calendar looked hectic. It looks monstrous, but it took me it doesn't take long to do it. Like it just looks like that because I have repeats set on all this different stuff. Repeat daily, repeat, you know, monthly, weekly, whatever it is. So take the time and do it. You'll see the results. I promise you. Yeah. You'll see a big shift for sure. So, all right, everyone, signing off. Enjoy your day. See you next Tuesday. Take care.